We gave your wedding fund to your sister. She deserves a real wedding. Dad said it like he was announcing the weather, like he hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of Sunday dinner. My fork froze halfway to my mouth, but I didn't drop it. I didn't cry either. I just turned slowly to look at my fiancé Marcus, and the expression on his face told me everything was about to change. Before I explain what happened next, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? And when you hear the rest of this story, tell me honestly, what would you have done? My name is Vivian. I'm 28 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the invisible daughter. Not invisible in the way that makes you feel mysterious or special. Invisible in the way that makes you wonder if you're even real to the people who are supposed to love you most. Growing up in our house in suburban Ohio meant growing up in my younger sister Brianna's shadow. She was 2 years younger, but somehow she was always the center of everything. The loudest voice, the brightest smile, the one who got the new dresses while I got the hand-me-downs from our cousin. Mom used to say Brianna needed more attention because she was sensitive. Dad said she had potential that needed nurturing. What they really meant was that I was easy to ignore, so they did. I learned early that the best way to survive in that house was to need nothing. So I became the girl who packed her own lunches, who walked herself to school, who figured out college applications alone because everyone was too busy helping Brianna with her drama club auditions. I got a full scholarship to state. Brianna got a brand new car for getting into community college. Different standards for different daughters. That was just how it worked. But I want to tell you about Marcus because he's the part of my story that changed everything. I met him 3 years ago at a financial literacy workshop downtown. I was there because I wanted to learn how to invest my small savings for my admin job. He was there because, well, I didn't know why at the time. He was quiet, attentive, took notes in a leather notebook that looked expensive. After the session, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I said yes because something about his calm confidence reminded me of the person I was trying to become. For months, I thought Marcus was just a regular guy. He drove a Honda, wore plain clothes, lived in a modest apartment. He told me he worked in finance, and I assumed that meant he was a bank teller or maybe an accountant at a small firm. He never corrected me. He never flashed money or talked about wealth. He just showed up, consistently, quietly, the way I had learned to move through the world. It wasn't until we'd been dating for almost a year that I discovered the truth. I was at his apartment helping him organize some papers when I found a magazine. Forbes. His face was on the cover. The headline read something about young founders revolutionizing fintech. My hands shook as I read the article. Marcus had built a financial technology company from his college dorm room. It had been acquired 2 years before we met. The number they mentioned made my head spin. 8 figures. When I confronted him, he just shrugged. I didn't want you to like me for that, he said. I wanted you to like me for me. I did. I do. And he liked me for me too, the quiet girl who asked for nothing, who had learned to build her own stability out of thin air. When Marcus proposed last spring, I called my parents with shaking hands. I expected them to be happy. Instead, Mom immediately asked about the ring size, as if calculating its worth. Dad wanted to know what Marcus did for a living. I said finance, keeping it vague, because somehow I knew that if they discovered the truth, everything would change. I wanted them to love Marcus because he was kind and steady and good, not because of what he had. We started planning a small wedding. Nothing extravagant. A garden ceremony, maybe 50 guests, a local caterer. My parents had mentioned years ago that they'd set aside money for both daughters' weddings. The same amount for each, they'd promised. Fair and equal. I hadn't touched it, hadn't even asked about it, because I was paying for most things myself anyway. But I assumed it was there. A safety net. A sign that maybe they did see me after all. Then came Sunday dinner. We were at my parents' house. Brianna was there too, glowing about her own engagement to a guy named Derek who sold insurance and thought cryptocurrency was a retirement plan. She'd been engaged for 3 months and had already planned a destination wedding in Cancun. 200 guests. Open bar. A dress that cost more than my first car. That's when Dad cleared his throat and made his announcement. We gave your wedding fund to your sister. She deserves a real wedding. The table went quiet. Mom nodded along like this was perfectly reasonable. Brianna smiled, the kind of smile that told me she'd known all along. Maybe even orchestrated it. I set my fork down slowly. I could feel Marcus tensing beside me, but I kept my eyes on my father. You gave her my fund, I repeated quietly. The money you promised was mine. Dad waved his hand dismissively. You're doing fine, Vivian. You've always been fine. Your sister needs help planning something beautiful. You understand. I did understand. I understood that I had spent my entire life being fine, so they could pour everything into someone else. I understood that fine was their code for doesn't matter. But before I could respond, Marcus moved. He stood up slowly, pulling his phone from his pocket. His face was calm, but his eyes had gone hard in a way I'd never seen before. Should I tell them what I do for a living? The room shifted. Dad blinked, confused. Mom tilted her head like a bird that had heard an unfamiliar sound. Brianna's smile faltered. What do you mean? Dad asked, a nervous laugh escaping his throat. You work at a bank or something, right? Marcus didn't laugh. He pulled up something on his phone and turned the screen toward my father. I'm the founder of Verity Financial. Maybe you've heard of it. We were acquired by Goldman Sachs 2 years ago. That article there shows my net worth, if you're curious. Dad's face went white. Mom grabbed the edge of the table. Brianna leaned forward, eyes wide, then immediately looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Dad sputtered. I'm the man who was going to write a check to cover every cost of Vivian's wedding, Marcus continued, his voice never rising. I was going to make sure her family didn't have to worry about a thing. Because that's what you do for the people you love. But now I'm hearing that you took money that belonged to her, money you promised her, and gave it to someone else because she deserves a royal wedding. He let the question hang in the air like smoke. Brianna stood up suddenly. I didn't know it was Vivian's money. Mom said it was extra family savings. Sit down, Brianna, Dad snapped, but his voice had lost all its authority. Marcus slipped his phone back into his pocket. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to return every dollar you took from Vivian's fund. I don't care how you do it. Sell something. Take out a loan. Figure it out. Because if you don't, I will make sure every person in this family, every person in this community, knows exactly what kind of parents steal from their own daughter. Mom's voice cracked. Marcus, please, this is a family matter. Vivian is going to be my family, Marcus interrupted quietly. And I protect my family, unlike some people at this table. I watched my parents crumble. Dad's confidence, the smug certainty he'd worn for decades, collapsed like wet paper. Mom kept looking between Marcus and me, as if trying to calculate some new equation she'd never considered. Brianna, for once, was completely silent. I stood up then, pushing my chair back slowly. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at my father and said something I'd been holding inside for 28 years. I spent my whole life trying to be enough for you. Working harder, needing less, disappearing so you could focus on her. And you know what? I was enough. I was always enough. You just refused to see it. Dad opened his mouth, but nothing came out. You don't owe me an apology, I continued. I don't want one. I just want you to know that I'm done being your invisible daughter. I'm done being fine. Marcus took my hand. His grip was warm, steady, everything my childhood had never been. We're leaving, he said to the room. You have 30 days to return the money. After that, my lawyers will be in touch. We walked out together. Behind us, I heard Brianna burst into tears. I heard Mom hissing at Dad. I heard the sound of a family finally confronting a lie they'd built their entire structure on. 3 weeks later, the money was returned. Every single dollar, wired to my account with no message attached. I didn't thank them. I didn't call. Our wedding happened 6 months later. Not in Cancun. Not in some extravagant venue designed to impress. We got married in a small vineyard in Napa Valley. Just 30 people who actually loved us. Marcus's parents, my college friends, a handful of his closest colleagues. My parents weren't invited. Brianna texted me the night before. She said she was sorry, that she hadn't known, that she wanted to be there. I didn't respond. Some apologies come too late to mean anything. What I remember most about that wedding day was the silence. Not the painful kind I grew up with, but the peaceful kind. The kind that comes when you finally stop performing for people who were never really watching. Marcus wrote his own vows. He said he fell in love with me because I was the first person who never asked him for anything. He said I taught him that strength isn't loud, it's consistent. He said he would spend the rest of his life making sure I never felt invisible again. I cried then. Finally, the money my parents returned, I donated it. All of it. To a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. The kind of kids who have to figure everything out alone. Who pack their own lunches and walk themselves to school and learn early that no one is coming to save them. Because I know what it's like to save yourself. And I know how much harder it is when you're doing it invisible. My sister's wedding in Cancun happened last month. I heard the photos were beautiful. I also heard Derek got drunk during the reception and made a speech that embarrassed everyone. Brianna called me crying afterward, wanting to talk. I let it go to voicemail. Some doors close for a reason. And some people only reach out when their spotlight starts to dim. I'm building a different life now. One where I'm seen, where I'm valued, where the people around me don't keep score. Marcus and I bought a house last month. Nothing flashy, just a place with a big kitchen and a backyard where our kids can play someday. If they're ever feeling invisible, I'll know how to see them. And if you're watching this and you've ever felt like the forgotten one, the one who's always fine, the one who needs nothing because nobody's offering anything, I want you to know something. Your invisibility isn't weakness. It's the foundation you built when no one else would build it for you. And one day, you'll stand on that foundation, and everyone who overlooked you will finally understand what they missed. The quietest people often have the most powerful stories. Don't ever let them make you think otherwise. If this story spoke to you, drop a comment below. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.